Johns Hopkins is an institution that believes deeply in truth-seeking, in evidence-based discovery, and in following the truth wherever it will take us. In recent years, our institution has, through the Hopkins retrospective and other efforts, begun to delve more deeply and critically into our history. This research guided us to a recent discovery of strong documentary evidence that shows that our founder, Johns Hopkins, the Baltimore philanthropist and merchant, was a slaveholder, and that his family had a more extensive relationship to slaveholding than we previously understood. We have a vision at this university of Johns Hopkins very much framed by a man who in many ways appeared to be ahead of his times. We've now had to come to terms with, at least in a very fundamental part of his life, he was of his times. And that's hard.
This past May, the university first heard of the possible existence of a record that indicated Johns Hopkins had 4 enslaved people living in his household in 1850. I was able to find that specific census record in a separate portion, which is called the slave schedules. There are 4 enslaved men listed in his household, and their ages are 45, 50, 25, and 18.
So there on the slave schedule is Johns Hopkins, said to be the owner of 4 enslaved people. And we see at least beginning signs of the ways in which trading in slaves was in part a facet of his business dealings. This was important to us, remarkable even, because we had always understood Hopkins to have been an abolitionist, someone who was radically anti-slavery in his thinking and in his practices. We really are obliged to dig further and to rethink the very foundational narrative that sits underneath our university today.
When Johns Hopkins established Johns Hopkins Hospital, a part of his edict at that point in time was to create a hospital that would not turn anyone away based upon their ability to pay, their race, their gender, and to develop an orphanage in the city for African American children. In a moment in time like this, what's really important is for us as an organization to assure that we understand what this really means, who Johns Hopkins was, the values he articulated in his will, and the context of it.
And we have to acknowledge both things can be true. One can have been a slaveholder, and then imagine oneself the benefactor. One does not negate the other. In the United States, both things can be true.
We know this discovery is important for our community. And that's why we're just at the beginning of this process. Our full community, including our Baltimore neighbors, will be included as we move through this important journey together.
These revelations change our understandings of our founder's life. They do not change the nature of what these institutions represent. At their best, the university and hospital are inspired and enriched by the values and aspirations laid out in our founder's will. They have fueled our institution's promise throughout our history and will continue to do so well into our future.